Hello, everybody, and welcome to our fourth webinar here for job seekers. My name is Karen O'Reilly, and I'm the founder of Employflex, and it's great to have you all here today. So our first webinar, we covered online interviews, and then we did upskilling. And last week we had Louise Bunyan, and she covered off LinkedIn for us, which was really interesting. And this week we're delighted to have Gillian McGrath from Change, Grow, Succeed. She's going to talk about overcoming the state of stuck and resilience. So we're really looking forward to that. Gillian is a coach with over 18 years experience. She is a master trainer and facilitator, also known to do some emceeing work. And she's very well known throughout Cork as being one of the top coaches in career coaches, career and life coaching. From our perspective, we met Gillian way back when we started off as Employ Mum, and she was a participant. So she helped us run our first back to work workshop. So we're delighted now to bring these workshops online and have Gillian with us here today. So if you haven't been in a webinar before, if you hover over the bottom of your screen, you will see a questions and answer function. So this is how we're going to communicate today. And I would definitely encourage you to interact and to ask any questions as we go along. So Gillian is going to give her presentation. And at the end, then we'll answer any questions that you might have. So feel free as the presentation is going through to pop your questions into the questions and answer function, and we'll answer them at the end. Okay, so without further ado, I'll pass you over to Gillian, who is going to run through her fantastic presentation.
Thank you very much, Karen. Let me just share my screen here. Thank you very much, Karen and Helen at the team at Employflex for inviting me to come online today and to share my thoughts on moving beyond the state of stuck. So, well, I better introduce myself before we start. I'm Gillian and I'm the owner of Change, Grow, Succeed. It's a Cork-based leadership consultancy and coaching practice. Helping people become unstuck and unlocking their potential has long been a passion of mine, and I consider myself hugely fortunate to work in an area that I am passionate about. As Karen said, I bring over 18 years experience in learning and development, coaching and people development, having worked across multinationals, SMB in the public sector, and worked hard to earn qualifications that support my craft. Change, Grow, Succeed started as a side hustle in 2013, and by 2015 I had quit the PAYE number and went out on my own. So I'm still here, still learning and evolving, and still passionate. In terms of the day job, 60% of the work we do at Change, Grow, Succeed is in leadership training, facilitation, and public speaking. Of course, about 2 months ago, we had to pivot and not panic, as I told myself, but pivot online. And some of the sample topics that we facilitate or speak on are there on the screen in front of you. However, 40% of the work that we do is in the coaching space. And coaching is very much a goal-oriented partnership. It looks at the present and looks at where you want to get to in the future. It's a very dynamic conversation aimed at achieving results and helping you get value in the areas of your life that are of value to you. So it's all about helping you find focus and clarity. And there's some of the clients that we continue to work with and support, and Employflex is up there at the top. So moving on now to the topic at hand, the state of stuck. I suppose by way of introducing the topic, it's important to clarify what we mean by the state of stuck and why the need to renew, revise, and re-energize is more important now than ever. Well, the collective ungrounding gifted to us by COVID-19 was absolutely unprecedented. Routines that gave our days and weeks structure and meaning, such as going out to work, getting the children ready for school, popping to the shops, visiting relations, socializing with friends or playing sport, all grounded to a halt as we listened and learned with curiosity and horror at what was unfolding in our turbulent world. As working from home and social distancing have become the new norm, as it were, there's still a huge amount of uncertainty around how we will recover from this collective ungrounding. It has impacted us hugely and all in very different ways. Many of us feel stuck. Many of us feel that our life is on hold or on pause. However, looking more laterally at this topic, we know that the concept of stuck is not just a COVID-related phenomena. Feeling stuck is a mindset, and I wonder if any of you can relate to any of the following, perhaps being at a crossroads and not knowing what to do. Maybe you're waiting for all this to pass so you can move on with your life. Maybe you're waiting for the right conditions or circumstances to help you change that job or get out of a relationship or do something different. Or maybe you're struggling with overwhelm, but you're still trying to show up and be the best person or the best version of yourself, maybe for your family, your team, your colleagues, your friends. So does any of this sound familiar, I wonder? Well, this webinar seeks to leave you feeling energized and with tips to renew, revise, and reconnect with you. I wanted to briefly explore the subtle differences between endurance and resilience with this particular slide. Endurance is something that we go through. It's about what we can withstand. It's very much survival mode. Whereas growth and recovery are key cornerstones to resilience. And while resilience does infer a withstanding, its weight is tilted towards our ability to overcome, our ability to recover. In resilience, experts talk about bounce back ability. However, I prefer to think about bouncing forward, as it does infer recovery and growth, our ability to process and make sense of it all. Viktor Frankl is a Holocaust survivor. I'm not sure if any of you have read his book, Man's Search for Meaning. Well, if you haven't, I would highly recommend it. It's received global acclaim and is well worth a read. Essentially, it highlights man's triumph over adversity. For me, there's much to reflect on in terms of learning from this book, but a concept that really resonates with me surrounds the power of choice. And if we look at this quote here, you'll see what I mean. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. We have been thrown in the deep end. The water is cold and we don't like it, yet these are the cards that we have been dealt. It reminds us that we have a choice in terms of how we view this time, as we ponder on any potential opportunities for growth and recovery, to review, revise, and re-energize ourselves. And something that you might find of interest, I know I'm fascinated that 40% of our well-being can be attributed to intentional activity. Now, what's the opposite to intentional? Well, the opposite to intentional is autopilot. In his book, The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg told us that we, the average human being, experience in around 60,000 thoughts a day. And would you believe that 95% of these thoughts are the same as yesterday? So in effect, we are spending a huge amount of our energy, our time, our thoughts on autopilot. So if we want to review, revise, and re-energize, we need to come off autopilot and start thinking more intentionally. In fact, according to Mental Health Ireland, who gave a very interesting quotation there, sometimes we think of well-being in terms of what we have, but evidence shows that what we do and the way we think have the biggest impact on our mental health. So what we do, our behaviors, and the way we think, our mindset, have the biggest impact on our mental well-being. So now moving on to the 5 tips. So 5 tips to renew, revise, and re-energize with resilience. Well, tip number 1 is all about looking in. For many of us, this enforced timeout has left us with a lot of time in our own heads, thinking, possibly driving ourselves mad. I know from listening to clients and friends, and in the absence of the usual distractions, they find themselves mulling over a challenge, a relationship, or work. Perhaps they're not in a place they want to be. They thought things might be different. They feel stuck, bereft even. It's important to get comfortable with being uncomfortable as we navigate these thoughts and feelings, and use this time really as an opportunity to figure this out. In a world where we had been expected to approach our daily lives like what seemed like an endless Ironman competition, our ability to pause and review is critical in ensuring that we're on a path that's headed in the right direction for us. Otherwise, you become a hamster in a wheel. You're living somebody else's life and you feel stuck. I find targeted reflection really helpful here. And what I mean by that is asking questions of yourself. I work some of my clients through this process, and some of the questions include, when did you last have fire in your belly? So when did you last have fire in your belly and what were you doing? Or deep down, what really matters to you? Or another one, if a miracle occurred and all stress and anxiety was magically removed from your life, what would your life look like? And what would you pursue? So our ability to pause and review some of these targeted reflective questions is really critical in enabling us to review and revise the path that we're on. So that's tip number one. Tip number two is all about reframing. Have you ever heard the expression, sometimes the way we see the problem actually is the problem? Reframing is a powerful tool in our toolkit when it comes to reviewing and revising how we see things, or what judgments or beliefs we may have as a result that might be holding us back or keeping us stuck. This is something that I often challenge my clients with and myself with, and it takes the form of, well, yes, another question, but something that may sound like as simple as, well, is there another way of looking at this? Or if you were to view this through the eyes of your colleague, your boss, your partner, would it look different? When you want to, again, intentionally reframe, you're literally looking to disprove your own thoughts, to create a space or a distance between you and your thoughts, because if you change what you think, you can change how you feel in seconds. We know that thinking creates feelings and emotions, and we know that emotions are a source of intelligence. We've all heard of emotional intelligence, and they're a source of data. They're not directives. But by reframing, we can become unstuck and we can see things with greater clarity. Tip number three is all about agility, or being agile. So being agile relates to our ability to adapt and change. In our pursuit to review and revise, and having spent time looking in to identify our purpose and explored our beliefs and thoughts through reframing, next it's time to consider agility and change. I was facilitating a Lead Through Change online event recently, and we used the fantastic book by Spencer Johnson called Who Moved My Cheese as a reference. One of the key points is, if you don't change, you will become extinct. And that really resonated with me at the time, as I was pivoting, as I mentioned earlier, pivoting, not panicking, but having upskilled myself to try and bring my content online to remain relevant and to continue the great work and communities that I have with my clients and colleagues here in Cork. So it's important that when we're agile, we look at evaluating, are we living an expired story? Is what we're doing now, is it still taking us on a path that puts fire in our belly? Or is it time to course correct? And remember, the bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists. So our ability to be agile to go with the flow or to course correct if necessary. That's tip number 3. Tip number 4 is all about connecting with your people or with your tribe. And I just love this quote from Brené Brown. Connection is why we are here. It is what brings purpose and meaning to our life. It reminds us that connecting with our people or our tribe is energizing for us. Now, in an era of imposed social distancing and isolation, it has never been more important to reach out and connect with a tribe. And you might ask, well, what is a tribe? Well, in my view, a modern take of the term tribe is being able to access and connect with those in your life who nurture you, who make you laugh, who inspire you, who accept you, warts and all. It provides us with a very important sense of belonging, which is critical to basic human functioning. Now, I know that Zoom fatigue is certainly a phenomena, although without Zoom, we would not be here today. But to be fair, we tend to be all driving in our own lanes, and this is the time to come out of those lanes and connect with each other in the ways that are available to us within a 5K radius, soon to be 20K. Really looking forward to that. What else we should say about our tribe is when we think of our tribe or our people, let's not undervalue the role of giving back. I mean, there's a lot of research around giving back makes us feel alive. So how are we contributing to our friends? How are we supporting people? How are we connecting? How are we giving back? Of course, a key element for our tribe, there's a giving, but also asking for help. We tend to be in an era where everything is self-resource. So we try and do everything ourselves. And of course, this leads to burnout and overwhelm. So reaching out, connecting with our tribe, contributing and giving, and asking for help is a massive source and a resource for us in terms of re-energizing. So that's tip number 4. And tip number 5, and the last and final tip that I'm sharing with you today, is around our physical well-being. Now, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence on this webinar, but if at the very base level we're not looking after our eating habits, if we're not staying active, drinking water, getting enough sleep, I can promise you that reframing, looking in, our ability to be agile will be really, really challenging. So at a very base level, it's good to reflect on our own physical and mental health and looking at the links between the two. Actually, Patrick Holford wrote a really good book called The Feel Good Factor, and I found that very useful in terms of breaking down key food groups and their associated benefits. Also, I'd have to say, find the joy. Take the joy. Many of us are overloaded on thinking with negativity, flooding our brains from the outside world. And I mean, to counter that, I really do advocate take the joy in simpler moments. Be intentional about enjoying a walk or a book. Pause to play a board game with the children or volunteer your time or effort to a cause in need. Now is your opportunity to catch up on your reading or your research, to start translating the tips I've just shared in terms of thinking about yourself and your vision. Practice gratitude to help you refocus if you feel frazzled. And this will all help you in terms of re-energizing and get you feeling better and moving forward, becoming unstuck. So I'd invite you just to take a moment. So I've shared 5 tips with you. I've shared looking in, reframing, being agile, connect with your tribe, and physical and mental health. So I'd like you to start thinking about what's in your toolkit. So take a moment to consider, what will you commit to in the days and weeks ahead? As we move toward the end of this webinar now, and I suppose if you're one of those people who thought, well, None of this was on my vision board. I hope that you found the tips to review, revise, and re-energize of benefit in this short webinar. And before I go, I want to leave you again with one of my favorite quotes from the very talented Marianne Williamson. She said, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." So thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate your attendance, and despite the beautiful weather that we've had. So I hope you've enjoyed it and found it of benefit. Thank you.
That was fantastic, Gillian. Thanks a million. If you can just stop sharing your screen now, then
Sure.
the two of us will pop up there.
Sure.
Perfect. Yeah. So yeah, that was really good. I really got a lot from that myself, actually, and I loved the bit about finding the joy. I found my own personal joy there today, and I got to the bottom of my laundry basket for the first time ever. I actually took a photograph of it and posted it on social media. I was so proud of myself. But yeah, I think that is true at the moment. You know, that we are, I suppose, have a renewed gratitude for the stuff that we have in our lives. Yeah. So thank you so much for that, Gillian, and for
No
giving
problem.
your time. I know everybody's time is precious at the moment.
Mm.
Just to say as well that Gillian is on our panel of coaches with Employflex, and we have a hand-picked number of coaches on our panel. And I have to say, all the candidates that we've sent to Gillian, we've had just 100% positive feedback. So if you are looking for a one-to-one coach, someone to chat to and to help you navigate your way through this, I would 100% recommend that you get in contact with Gillian. Her website is Change, Grow, Succeed, and you'll find her on all social media platforms as well. So 100% recommendation from us here at Employflex. Yeah, so a couple of questions are coming through there. So if you don't mind answering them, Gillian. One or two came in there.
Sure, no
You
problem.
mentioned a couple of books there through your presentation. Are there any books that you'd recommend us to read at the moment that would be relevant, I suppose, to the situation that we're in?
Oh, there's a good few off the top of my head. I would recommend. Oh, there's a few. What I'm loving at the moment is Untamed by Glennon Doyle. I'm also loving How Women Rise.
Very good. And
which is very topical at the moment. I know at Network Cork, Sally Helgson is coming to speak. In terms of moving beyond the status stuck, there would be 4 or 5 that I would recommend. And what I'd suggest is, just because I can't get all the names and the authors right in this moment in my head, I will capture those and I will share those with you straight after this webinar.
fantastic. We can send that then to all the attendees here today. Would you have any advice on how to build a tribe, during COVID? We're all, is there any networks you'd recommend, or any tribes you'd recommend joining or approaching at the moment?
Yeah, so I guess we have personal and professional tribes. I know for me, I wouldn't be without the tribe at Network Cork, which is a tribe for a business network for women. We say it's business, but I was no more surprised with all the really solid friendships that I've made as a result, and people who are maybe sharing the path that you're on, that you can connect with and that you feel very aligned with.
Very good. Yeah, Network Cork is a great one there. There's Fiona saying thank you there, and saying thank you as well. So from Elizabeth, thank you so much for your tips, Gillian. Smiley face. I was wondering, what would you recommend for the dark days when you're struggling to stay positive and reframing is not really working for you? So struggling to stay positive. Is there any?
Well, Elizabeth, that's a great question. And I think we've all had those days. For me, it's about looking at the expectations I might have of myself on that day. So for me, it's about labeling that I actually feel terrible today. It's about being real with where you're at. And I think there's an opportunity then to look at our expectations of ourselves relative to that. and to go gently and compassionately. We all have, for sure, we all have days like that. So that's what I'd recommend for the days. Sometimes days can turn into weeks, and when you feel it's impacting, or if it has a greater impact, I would recommend obviously that you reach out, connect with your tribe, your friends, or go talk to somebody that you trust to help you move forward.
Yeah, some great advice there. I suppose, you know, like on media at the moment as well, it's just awash with COVID-19 news. It's very hard, you know, to see anything else when you listen to the media. So, you know, for me, I'm staying away from Twitter and stuff like that, because anytime I go on it, it just sends me into a fury, you know, because there's so much anger out there, you know. So I would say, you know, staying away from stuff like that is probably a good thing to do as well. But yeah, it is.
Yeah, I actually put some research into that, and I think dealing in facts, not fear, because there was a whole culture of fear created right with, I mean, some of it was necessary, and we all heard, just look at news from a very reliable resource, but we were being bombarded daily. So again, it's about being intentional. I think with, okay, if I go on Twitter, Karen, to your point, how is this going to serve me right now? Or if it's not serving me, do you know what? I'm going to park it.
Yeah. Very good advice there. So a question from an anonymous attendee. Any tips on staying away from the negativity that's out there? I do think there are positives to be found on this, but also I get swamped in the misery of some of the social media platforms. So we've kind of just covered that, really.
Yeah, no, and it's so true. And my advice is it's about creating a distance, and how you'll create a distance. Well, first you have to be a bit intentional. So it already sounds like you're aware of the negative impact of the news on you on a particular given day or week. And if you need to create a distance, be intentional about it.
Yeah, and as well, I suppose I would just add to that, just for personally, just start following positive pages, you know, positive
Yeah.
people. For example, the Be Bell tribe, run by Shan Horn there, they are 100% about positivity, and you can't come away from one of their Insta lives or one of their webinars without, you know, feeling so positive, you know, because there's just no room for negativity there. But I suppose as well, they're positive, but they're realist as well. You know, it's not that everything's going to be a grand job. Like, you know, it's you know, you know, facing up to the situation we're in with a very, very positive attitude, but remaining real at the same time. So, yeah, so I would be looking out for accounts like that you could follow. Um, um, you know, ones that, you know, really resonate with you and put you in a good mood, you know, and just stop following the others that are full of anger and angst and always giving out. You know, there's a, you know, there's a few out there. So from Janice, staying positive is hard for most of us in this climate. Do you have any tips? Kind of similar theme running through this. Yeah.
I find, again, with staying positive, right? And I don't buy into the tyranny of positivity, right? Because some days are just crap, and some people's lives are harder than others, and I don't want to minimize anyone's struggle. But in the spirit of what can we be more intentional about, a lot of my clients have find great find a great tool for their toolkit is keeping a gratitude journal. And it's something that's very simple, but again, you're being very intentional about maybe thinking about 2 or 3 things that occurred in the day that you're grateful for. So it almost forces you to think about, well, what was that? And it might be that you had a cup of coffee outside in the garden, and that was great. But again, it refocuses your mind to the positive. So gratitude journals can be very helpful, and it's something that we haven't mentioned actually so far in the questions and answers.
Yeah, I had one of them going as well pre-COVID.
BC.
Threw it out the window. No. I actually thought that was a bit of mumbo jumbo before, but I started doing myself first thing in the morning. 3 things you're grateful for before you get out of bed, and yeah, it definitely changes your mindset, you know. And you know, we do have a lot to be grateful for, you know, at the moment, you know, so it is.
So what was that, Karen? So you did think it was mumbo jumbo, but now having tried it, how has it impacted you?
Yeah, no, I actually think it's really good. Yeah, yeah.
Delighted to hear
I'd be
that.
a bit of a cynic at the best of days, but no, I actually must get it out again now and start it again. I have it here actually.
There
It's
you
nice.
go. Well,
Spark one.
your empty laundry basket should go in there, so.
Yeah, I should. Yeah. Doesn't happen often. Okay, from Rachel. Thank you for an interesting presentation and great tips and tools to use during this time. But for life, personal and work, during this time for life, personal and work, as we hit roadblocks along the way. Thanks for your time, Rachel. Lovely, lovely message there. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
And thank you all for your interactions here, actually, guys. It's great to see people interacting. From Michelle, thanks for the positive advice. Thank you. Another thank coming in there from Elizabeth. So Janice, Gillian, finally got to attend one of your sessions. It was on my bucket list before all this.
Oh,
there you go
goodness.
now. There's a great comment there. Michelle loves the idea of the gratitude journal. Just one thing that came in here on my text, actually, I know why it came through there. It says you mentioned to ask people advice, and she says that she's a very proud person. She finds it very hard to ask for advice. Okay, this is me. Okay.
Asking for a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my friend is a very proud person, and she finds it very hard to ask for help. So have you got any advice on that?
Wow, that's tough. So asking for help, and I suppose, it's something that I see in more women than men. So whoever you were, your friend is, that you're not alone. We do like to try, and it's surprising in some ways that it is gender related, that women do find it harder to ask for help. We don't like to, or we're uncomfortable feeling vulnerable. But in actual fact, it's this sharing of ourselves and being vulnerable that really helps us to connect. Also, if you were to reframe that, if somebody was coming to ask you for help, how would you feel? And we tend to feel really good when we're helping somebody else. So maybe to have that at the fore of your mind, whatever it is, and I don't know what it is that you might need help with, but I would think people like to help. So whoever that lucky person is that you will ask, I'm sure it's somebody that you have in your life that's dear to you, that you trust, and that'll be important. And good luck with that.
Yeah, I think as well, from with the recruiter hat on, for job seekers, when you're looking for work and you're trying to connect with somebody on LinkedIn or Twitter or whatever way you're trying to connect with a potential colleague who could possibly help you in your job hunt, I think asking for help is a great way to connect with somebody. And as Gillian just said there, Irish people in particularly love to help, and we genuinely do get a kick out of helping other people and bringing them up. So from a job seeker's perspective, I think this is a fantastic in, rather than asking somebody for a job or a favor. Everybody has 20 minutes to spare. You'd be very surprised, how many people will give you 20 minutes of quality time. People very high up in organizations have given me 20 minutes of their time or half an hour quality chat, if I was trying to figure out something and I didn't know. So from a job seeker's perspective, brilliant way of reaching out. You do your homework, I would say, and know the person, find out something about the person you're asking, and make the connection that way. And as Gillian said as well, it's people get a real feel good feeling from helping others. So I would definitely put that in my arsenal of ways to job hunt, asking for help. Yeah. Okay, so some more little thanks coming in here. Yeah, if there's any more questions now, you can pop them into the questions and answers there. And thank you from Elizabeth. Yeah, I'm just dismissing these as we go along here. Loves the idea of the journal. From Valerie. Gillian, looking at you, you're giving us a great tip to feel better. Lipstick, nice colours. She loves her pink wall, and a great haircut.
Well, Valerie, the haircut is controversial. I mean, preparing for a talk on resilience and looking at my picture that I use for my professional ones, I mean, the hair is totally different. It's been a long time, but thank you very much. And the pink wall, I'm actually in my 10-year-old's bedroom. I have my offices downstairs and as part of an open plan kitchen, but that's just a no-go. It's a war zone actually with 3 children downstairs. So this is why I'm up here, but thank you.
But I think that there is something in that what Valerie is saying as well, though. When you look good, you feel good as well.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly know. Like I went around for the first 6 weeks in a floppy tracksuit and wore no makeup, and the hair was going grey and everything. And every time I looked in the mirror, I just went like, oh. But now, I think we're coming out of the fog a bit. I'm making a bit of an effort. The weather is nicer too. But you do feel a little bit better when you spruce up a bit. And I suppose having these webinars gives me an excuse to put on a bit of makeup as well. But you never told me how nice I was looking, Valerie. But yeah, I think, that there is something in that, making a bit of an effort with yourself does help your mindset, I think, as well. It makes you feel a bit more positive. Yeah. Okay. So if there's any more questions, as I said, you can pop them in the questions and answers. You look fab as always. Thank you. Somebody just thank you. Yeah. So love my eyeshadow. Somebody's making comment. They love my eyeshadow. Thank you. Okay. So if there's any more questions, you can pop them in there. We've allocated about 45 minutes for this. So, but just to let you know that next week at the same time and the same place, we'll have Lorraine McGuinness from CV Tips and Tricks. And she's going to go through your CV and how to make a CV that's going to stand out from the crowd. I suppose our CVs are going to look a little bit different going forward because we're all, work is going to look a bit different going forward. So she's going to focus on what people are going to be looking at in this new way of working in your CV. So we'll have the link up and we'll send you a link and a follow-up email, and the link will be on our social media as well to book that if you want to book in for next week. And if you have any other suggestions of things that you want us to cover going forward, we're going to continue on the webinars every Thursday at 3 o'clock. So you can pop them in there to the questions and answers if you have any ideas at the moment. And if not, you can just email us. We're on info@employflex.ie. And we have a couple of jobs coming in at the moment, which is good news for job seekers. Things are starting to open up a little bit. We're seeing a little bit of movement there. So that's good news. So keep an eye on our website and our social media channels if you are looking for a job at the moment. So no more questions coming through there. So I think we'll call it a day there, Gillian.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Listen, a huge thanks again to Gillian McGrath for giving her time. Brilliant presentation, and I think we all got a lot from it, and we'll be leaping into the unstuckness of of this new situation now. So thanks everybody for coming, and thanks for your interaction. And again, a big thank you to Gillian McGrath of Change, Grow, Succeed.
Thanks, Karen.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.